Welcome, everybody, to It Tastes Different Game Reviews. What we're reviewing today? Assassin's Creed Mirage. Assassin's Creed Mirage is another Assassin's Creed game. It's an adventure game brought to you by Ubisoft Bordeaux and published by Ubisoft. It's the 13th major game in the franchise. Lord, it was released on everything: PS5, 4, Xbox One, One X, One S, iOS, Microsoft Windows, Luna, which I cannot believe is still a thing. And it is a single player game. So let's jump into this. It's another Assassin's Creed game. This game is definitely geared more towards the OG originals parts of the series. It was supposed to be closer to Assassin's Creed 2, 3, Brotherhood. And it's a much smaller game in the franchise. It definitely, in that portion, it does lead back more towards the roots of Assassin's Creed 2, which is my favorite. So, does it hold up to my favorite? We'll find out in a minute. Let's go to Pat first. Pat, what do you think about Assassin's Creed Mirage?
I hoped it and wished it was a Mirage because I find it extremely boring. I find a nap more entertaining than this game, unfortunately. And this is the problem with gamers, right? There's so many gamers out there that holler and go back, yell, go back to the roots and all this. But I'll be the first to admit that was never something I ever asked for, because I thought Odyssey, in my opinion, was the best one that they'd ever put out. Odyssey to me was the best one, followed with like Black Flag as the next one, So, it's, to me, it's back to the roots. It's the same game we already played, right? I played the first one, second one, and this feels just like the very first one again, all over again. So I don't much care for it. And I took a nap trying to play this game multiple times. I remember when I first loaded it up, the splash screen came on, and I was like, do I really want to play this? And I turned it off. Then I came back to an hour later, picked it up, played for a while. And then I picked it up the next day and continued to play through it. And then thought I had been playing much longer, because then I hit the prologue, splash screen was over, and I was like, are you kidding me? So this game is very slow. It is very minimal. It basically minimized what had become a bloatware of a game, right? But they also kind of took away what was making the game unique, and that was the different settings and things that have come out of the game. Because we were, like I said, we've had Black Flag, we've had Odyssey, which was like Roman Empire stuff, and and then pirates, and then we just had the Valhalla, which is the Vikings, the Saxons, and all that stuff. And now we go back to the Middle East, and I'm like, okay, what new gimmick are they doing now? There's some new tools and things like that, but it's the same exact game. They just shrunk the map a little bit. It's not quite as broad as it was, but it's just as boring, and it's the same concept over and over and over again. I think this game is suffering from fatigue. There's just too many of them out there, and they come out too frequently that we don't have time to forget the last one before this one comes out. I mean, this game, or Assassin's Creed Valhalla was a launch title for the new next gen consoles, and now here we are, 2023, and there's already another one. So to me, I found it very boring. It was hard to get into, and I had to force myself to play it for the review. I forced myself to play through hours upon hours of this game. And I'm glad that the review day is here, so I can uninstall it and not go back to it. So it's not a bad game. It's just more of the same. And to me, I get bored with that. If I've played this game already. I played it in Assassin's Creed 1, Assassin's Creed 2. I've played this game already. So for me, it was a waste of money. Nick, what about you, man? What do you think of this game, Mirage?
Mirage. That's what we're doing. Ubisoft has done it again. That's what I think. They have made another boring game. Ubisoft, they back in the day, Ubisoft used to make really fun stuff. And when I saw Ubisoft on a game, I thought, oh man, this is going to be good. And it usually was. And then I don't know what happened, but then they started doing whatever they do now. And it's the same old same. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't I wasn't interested in Assassin's Creed Mirage to begin with, but we picked that for review and I played several hours of it. It is back to the basics. It is very basic as far as like, it doesn't have all the stuff that the last ones had. It's not packed full of stuff. It's got plenty of stuff, but it's not, packed hoarding style, that Ubisoft usually does. They called 1-800-JUNK and got some of the stuff out. But they had a few trinkets that they wanted to keep, so couldn't let go of them. And so they're still in there. The game, I think, looks great. I think graphically it looks really nice. I think it plays fine. I know Patrick had some issues with controls, and I think Russ did as well. I didn't really experience those myself. I think it played just fine control-wise, but it does play different than the last ones, right? It goes kind of more back to the original where stealth was a bigger component of the game, and where combat's really more of a try to avoid than it is engage, right? And that's how the original Assassin's Creed were, where you were kind of like a stealth ninja more than up in their face, where the other ones were more of like in your face, Valhalla and Odyssey and stuff like that were more like you can go in and just beat everybody down, right? You had lots of tools to do so. So it does go back to its basic, but I think, like Pat said, there's not really anything wrong with the game. But it's just more of the same. If you played an Assassin's Creed, you've played this one. It's got a different setting, it's got different people, but it's the same game. I just want Ubisoft to make something worth playing. But I would also like Ubisoft to just stop making Assassin's Creeds, at least for quite a while, right? Work on other stuff. And I know right now they have this whole, they went on this whole Assassin's Creed bonanza. And I think this is the first part of that bonanza. And then they got a VR game coming out. And then they got Assassin's Creed Sun, and which that's supposed to be set in feudal Japan, which that one might be cool just for the setting alone. And then they got, Assassin's Creed, I don't know, whatever else, Moon, Nexus, Assassin's Creed Rainbow Six, Assassin's Creed Splinter Cell, I don't know, Assassin's Creed The Crew / Assassin's Creed Watch Dogs 4, whatever they come up with. Just Ubisoft has this really weird thing where they make games into franchises and they all suck. And or they start out good and then by the end of it, they all suck. One of the two things. I don't know what their deal is with it. And then they continue franchises that suck to start with and they still continue to suck, but they still make them for some reason. I don't get it. Assassin's Creed didn't suck, right? Some Assassin's Creed sucked and some didn't. But they don't do enough to really change up the Assassin's Creed formula. I feel like they try to with each new iteration, but they just don't do enough for me, in my mind, to really displace the last one from the next one. Besides settings and people, right? It's still, when you get down to the fundamentals and you start playing through and you're going with the guy, you're like, wow, I've done all this. This is just a repeat of everything I've done. The same kind of contract missions, which this game has. When you go into the map, when you start out, when you finally get to Baghdad, which is where most of the game takes place, you can go and get contract missions, and there's points of interest, and contract missions are separate from the main quest, right? They're extra quests to do things. And the thing I don't like about these two is they do have stipulations like don't get hurt or don't get seen. The don't get hurt one, I didn't get hurt. I mean, technically I did, but I fell. I didn't fall, but I dropped down from a height that was just too big for my dude. So he like went, ooh, when he hit the ground, and the game was like, no, you got hurt. You don't get the bonus for that. And I'm like, what? But I didn't get hurt by a guy. I just got hurt because the ground was like 2 inches further down. Right. It's stupid. Anyway, that's just a nitpick for me. I like, if I got hit by a person, I understand, like a guard, but no guard saw me. I went in, snuck in, got out. Nobody saw me, but whatever. Yeah, I mean, it's just the same old game. And that's all there is to it. This game, just like Pat, I had trouble playing through it. I had to force myself to get on, because just like Pat, when I'd get on, I'd sit at the start screen and go, do I want to play this? And no, I didn't, but I would, just get through it so I could, get something to talk about for the review, so that way I can give it a fair chance. But Ubisoft just needs to do something different. Just stop making Assassin's Creeds for a while. I know it's their bread and butter, but just stop for a while and focus on other things, new things, something that's worth playing. Shane, what about you, buddy?
I can't agree or disagree with you guys, because I'm about as middle of the road on this game as you could possibly get. This is not exactly what I meant when I said kind of go back to the basics of like 2 and Black Flag. They took it too goddamn literal and put me back into Assassin's Creed 2 almost identically. Story beats different. You don't have Ezio, who to me is still the best protagonist. But that's literally it. They just put you back in Assassin's Creed 2 with nicer graphics. That's really what it felt like. It played fine. It played just like Assassin's Creed 2, even the clunkiness of the controls. I think that's why me and Nick didn't really think there was an issue, because we expected it. It's not like our brains are like, oh my God, the controls are going to be so much tighter now. No, it's just going to be the same damn controls. And it's, they had an opportunity to, go back to certain things, like a more focused world, a more focused story, but they didn't have to put it into a world we basically have been in multiple times. We could have done any timeline, really, in any country. There's so many opportunities, and I think they went too far back to basics. I mean, like I said, number 2 is my favorite by far. But they didn't need to go back to 2. They just needed to make the world more focused. And I don't need a 2,000-hour game. I want a good 25-hour game for that price. And I want a nice story game that I can keep up with and play and enjoy. I mean, tech wise, the game ran fine for the most part. I definitely ran into a few things that, bugged me. Only one I'm actually made me restart the game. That was when I jumped through a window and then became one with the window. I was Window Man. But that was it. I mean, it's just, the game is about as middle of the road Assassin's Creed as you can get. Nothing new introduced in this game did anything to make it new Assassin's Creed. It just really kept it as it was in the original trilogy of the game. So I think they had the right ideal of focused world, focused story. They just put it in the wrong setting, and they didn't actually introduce anything new. I think if they would have put us into, somewhere in Asia or Europe, pre-car somewhere, they could have had so many other ideals and so many things they could have done. If they put us into a more modern age, just imagine, the Assassin's Creed gameplay you could have out of it, more tech you could use, things like that. That's what I've always wanted. I love stealth games. This was my favorite part of this game, was a stealth. and it's just the same damn world I'm stealthing in. That's probably my biggest issue with the whole series. This whole game is I've played this world. I've been in this world. I want a new world. I want a new backdrop, because honestly, you can only do so much with desert and rock huts. I mean, it just all looks the same to me. It's not an ugly game. It's just not a new game. It really does not feel like a new game. And that sucks, because I wanted to enjoy this more than these guys did. I wanted to enjoy this just because 2 was my favorite, and all the pre stuff when it was announced, it felt like it was going to be more like 2, and it was too much like 2. It was too square. So that's just my take on it. I think they should have used the opportunity to at least forward the gameplay itself by introducing new elements and new gameplay ideals, new ways to stealth, things like that. But they didn't. They literally right down the middle of the road Assassin's Creed. So it's not a game I can say don't play. It's not a game I can say it's a must buy. It's a on sale at best, but if you want it, get it. If not, don't. I mean, it's literally middle of the road.
I wish they would have done like, I wish they would go a little bit more like, I mean, the setting for this one, sand again. We're back to sand. We've done sand many a times in Assassin's Creed. Let's change up the terrain on this one. I know Valhalla was different. It wasn't sand, but we've done sand again. And we're back to sand again. It's like, come on, let's do something different. It would be cool if they did. And I know they try to keep things more like real life geography type areas, right? But I would love to see them do something like futuristic, like steampunk or cyberpunk or something like that. That would be really cool. They would probably have to change things up a bit on how the assassin assassinates, but that would, I mean, if they made it cyberpunk or steampunk, they might be making a different game, but they could call it Assassin's Creed and have it, and still kind of incorporate some of the things in there, but just make it like futuristic. That would be really cool. Like, take some more liberties with it.
I think that's what they were trying to do when they did Valhalla. I think they were trying to make a Viking game, and then they were like, well, put a hood on it. Let's call it Assassin's Creed.
They probably do that with a lot of their games. And making a snowboarding game. They were making a snowboarding game that turned into the Viking game that turned into Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So
Assassin's Creed Cool Borders.
It was the prototype for Steep. Steep came out, but that was just that was the initial first run. They're like, this guy looks too much like a Viking. But yeah, I mean, if they're going to keep making them, like, take some more. I mean, there are stuff. They try to do. They seem to try to, besides the fictional elements with the animus and the futuristic kind of order and their whole like mystic stuff like that. Like the geography, they try to keep it more grounded in reality, like the locations and stuff like that. As far as them being like real life locations and areas. But it's like, maybe they should take some liberties with that and just be like, you know what, let's just make something up, some crazy, like something or other. I know by this point they probably can't, but maybe they could make like a spin-off or something where they do something like that. I don't know. Ubisoft needs to do something different because they're just always pissing in their Cheerios every time, like with everything anymore, it seems. It's like, you've got to change things up.
Yep. And the more you want them to do certain things, the more they like completely want to go against what their consumer base wants. I don't know who's making the damn decisions, but fire them. Listen to your fan base. We've been wanting a new Splinter Cell for how long? I'm not saying every damn decision they're Pat. I'm just saying they need
don't
to listen
to the fan base at all.
Because
the fan base are a bunch of idiots. This is how you got Mirage.
No. You got Mirage because of pure laziness.
No, you got Mirage because everybody kept telling them to go back to their roots.
Yeah, and what they do, they got lazy and they recycled old shit is what they did.
No, they went back to their roots like everybody asked for. And I mean, the game's not trending bad.
Too literally. No,
I mean, the
it's
game's
not.
Trending in the 70s and 80s and stuff like that. But
about the average, maybe a little bit low for an Assassin's Creed game, but No, I mean, I want a new Splinter Cell. We all, I think, Pat, did you like the Splinter Cell series? I don't know if you did or not.
Didn't
Me
play
and Nick
them.
always did. Really? I'm kind of surprised. I figured you would enjoy the Splinter Cell series.
I'm not a stealth fighting game. Stealth games aren't my biggest thing. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest stealth fighter type game. I don't like, and that's probably why I liked Odyssey and Valhalla better than this one.
Yeah. More straightforward, in your face, hood
Action
down bullshit.
adventure type RPG. Yeah.
And I can see that. I can definitely see that. And I think that's one reason why you enjoyed, especially Odyssey so much compared to the predecessors of it. So but the way they make their games anymore, it's nonsensical. Nobody wants those. I mean, Nick's favorite game Ubisoft makes is Watch Dogs. And they've done it 3 times, and they're going to do a 4th. We know they're going to do a 4th, even though they suck, even though the reviews suck, even though the players just completely abandon it. I mean, you got one dude who streams it for about a half hour on Twitch, and he's done with it. Ubisoft says it's going to be its own destruction, just like so many other game companies are. They're too busy chasing the quick buck and not chasing what made them who they are. So, and I know I bash on Ubisoft a lot, and that's just because I used to love them. I loved all their games. They, from Rainbow Six to freaking Raymond, Raven Rabbids, not Raymond Rabbids. You know the word I'm trying to say. But the Rabbids games and stuff, they just used to be such fun games, and they used to make games when you got it. Holy crap, you knew you were going to like it. Now it's what's going on here?
Yeah. I mean, hopefully they don't implode until after their Star Wars games come out. I want to check that out. But
I want it to be good so bad, just because I want a big W for Ubisoft. I do, because
I
it's
want a
new
good Star
IP.
Wars game.
I want it just because it's a new IP for them. It's a new game for them.
Oh, yeah, because I don't think they're working on anything that's new outside of that. I mean, the Prince of Persia Lost Crown is probably as close to out of their series as that. But, I mean, it's still something, right? Skull and Bones is supposed to be coming out.
It's not.
Every time they try, and we got the Pandora game, the Avatar Pandora game is supposed to come out at the end of this year. And then that X Defiant that's getting pushed back. But like outside of that, there's like 4 or 5 Assassin's Creeds lists in the upcoming games. There's like 2 Tom Clancy Division titles in development. The game that is in development hell that will never come out, Beyond Good and Evil 2,
I forgot that was even a thing.
I'm not interested in anything Ubisoft makes, and
so
even upcoming.
Well, they're supposedly developing a new Splinter Cell, so
they've been supposedly for a decade.
They've been doing that about as long as they've been making Skull and Bones.
Yeah,
so I'll believe it when I see it.
Ubisoft is like Apple iPhones. It's the same goddamn thing, and they throw something in from somebody else once a year. That's it. That's all they do.
But I mean, the Splinter Cell thing is an official announcement from them, but I suppose so is Good and Evil 2, right?
Yeah. And Skull and
but
Bones.
they said that Splinter Cell, they said a long time ago. I mean,
2021.
Yeah.
So 2 years ago. That's the problem with Ubisoft.
Like it's longer than that.
Because Ubisoft just announces stuff way too early is what their problem is.
Yeah,
at least we've seen here's the thing though. We've seen more of Beyond Good and Evil 2 and more of Skull and Bones than we have of Splinter Cell. You know what they did with Splinter Cell? They said, we're making a new one, and that's it. They didn't show anything. There wasn't like a teaser trailer, like a 3D one like Beyond Good and Evil had. Nothing. It was just, hey, we're working on it. So I say that's probably dead in the water. Like Skull and Bones and like Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Could be.
Well, I know when they made the last Splinter Cell, they got rid of Michael Ironside. Fans revolted. They still bought it and played it and it sold well, very well. But that will affect it because, you have certain people that are just iconic. If they can't get Sam Fisher's real voice back, they may have a problem. But Michael Ironside's like 90 million years old now. So, I mean, I still love him. I still think he is the voice of Sam Fisher. But, I mean, just like what's his face doing Solid Snake. I mean, they kicked him out of 5. So
Kiefer.
Yeah. No, they brought in Kiefer. They Sutherland it. So I don't know. But Ubisoft has got to take a long hiatus from Assassin's Creed. A long hiatus. Plain simple. The series is good to a point, but just like so many other things, they're milking it to death, and they got to stop it.
Yeah. So Mirage itself. Yeah, Mirage in itself is not a bad game, but it's not a good game. But for me, the problem is it's more of the same. I've already played this game like umpteen different times, and every one of it's, when it's in Egypt or when it's in the Holy Lands or whatever, even when you do it in Greece, they kind of make it look the same. But, so, I mean, outside of that, I felt the gameplay was sluggish. And I don't know if that's because I was used to the last 2 Assassin's Creed games, which weren't very stealth focused and not really. And when you think about it, they weren't very parkour focused. I mean, Odyssey had some parkour, but it wasn't nowhere back to the original. And Valhalla had some parkour too, but it's not the main focus of the game. But the parkour in this one feels dumb. Like they've dumbed the protagonist down. Like, I don't know how many times I'm running at a wall to kind of hit something and then bounce to the right, and he just hits the wall, jumps off. And I'm like, or he hits the wall, he just hangs onto the ledge, and I'm like, all right, let go, press B, let go. And he just sits there hanging, and I'm like getting frustrated at the controls of this game. So I felt the controls were janky. My biggest problem too is the way that they lay out their buttons. I hate crab style holding the controller, and that's exactly what this game forces you to do because of the parry button is like the shoulder button. The attack button is the other shoulder button. So right shoulder is attack. And I'm like, who in their right mind made right bumper attack? And the visual cues for parrying, are just like most other games where they're color coded, right? You can't parry the red attacks. You can only parry the gold attacks. The problem is half the time when I'm getting attacked, I'm in freaking eagle view or whatever the hell it is, and everything's red. And I'm like, is that a light attack or heavy attack? And that happens all the damn time. And even when you come out of that view, it's still propagated all over the place, and it takes a while to fade that view out. And it's like, I'm in the middle of getting my ass kicked here. And so combat's not a real strong focal point for this because combat is stupid. Like, who does right shoulder button, tap for light and hold for heavy? I'm like, this is the dumbest crap ever. I should decide before I go into the attack if I want to do a light or heavy attack. Instead of having to hold it, I should be like a designated button to light or heavy attacks so that I know when I'm stringing them and comboing them along what I'm getting into. But this game completely screwed combat, in my opinion. But I'm not a fan of this. I don't mind the stealth. Like, I did not mind when Assassin's Creed first came out. I'm like, this is a cool concept. The stealth was really cool. This one, stealth feels like a gimmick to me. It just feels super gimmicky. The parkour feels super like you're running through molasses or freaking jelly or something. It to me feels bad. It feels wrong. And I'm glad that the review is happening now because I can't wait to uninstall this thing from my system. I need to free up that space that hog of a game's taking up.
Well, we know what Pat thinks. It's giving him flashbacks because it feels bad and it feels wrong. So, but you guys got anything else to say before we finish off here? All right. Well, it feels bad. It feels wrong to Pat. What about you? Do you feel bad? Do you feel wrong for it? Have you played it? What do you think? Are you a fan of the series? What do you think of the series? How do you feel the series should progress, or should it just take a long ass nap? Tell us what you think. But like always, make sure you hit like, share, subscribe, tell all your friends, tell your family, tell your granny. And until next time, see ya.